There's really so much to unpack with how the CIA neutralized leftists and progressives. But every day I grab onto one particular statement or rallying cry that I see, and I just think to myself, this is the finest work of the CIA, man. A good example of this is how online leftists are all literally ACAB, um, literally anti-ICE. When I say literally, I mean they think the where this should go is no cops, no border enforcement. So even if you're a human trafficker, drug dealer, you shouldn't be able to be deported. And even if you're like committing crimes, then we need some solution other than cops, like community policing, otherwise known as, I assume, lynch mobs, where towns kind of police their own shit with no formal evidence gathering procedure, and they just kind of go on rumor who's bad dude, and then they like beat them to death in a pile. You know, like what happens in Mexico, because all the cops are like working for the cartel and they don't protect the people. Like they think that's a superior option. Um, this is a great example of the CIA and how they infiltrated leftists to get them chanting so fucking insane, right? And it's based on a nugget of truth that was so mutated to make their mission and their sound bites terrible to people, right? So the nugget of truth is this: because of racial class oppression that has gone on, there are disproportionate crime rates amongst races. So, because blacks are the victims of class oppression along racial lines, thus economic oppression along racial lines, black Americans are disproportionate relative to their race in the population in property crimes and drug crimes and crimes like this, right? And that means higher rates of police encounters and imprisonment because of the cycle of racial oppression to create an economic underclass that in the modern world drives higher crime rates from the inequity of wealth. So there's a nugget of truth there. Like, absolutely, the carceral system affects blacks more. But solving this issue is not to get rid of cops. It would be to fix the class inequalities that drive the crime inequalities. But rather than have leftists say something that's very productive, like the carceral system is racist because of class oppression along race lines, because of wealth inequalities, that needs to be fixed. They literally get them to chant no cops at all, which is obviously a repulsive message to people who are pro-social and they don't like the idea of there being like no policing at all, whether black, brown, or Hispanic. You know, if you're middle class, you don't want to think about a world where um, there's just no policing system. We know how that works. Like, again, countries that do not have a strong police force, like they kind of just have to band together as to communities and go on rumor and beat to death anybody accused of shit. It's not the best. Not the best. You have a better chance of justice with the current system where they're gonna actually look for evidence, trial and stuff, right? And you'll have a lawyer who defends you and a lawyer for the other side, the state, the prosecutor, all these things. That's a way better, even if you are a criminal, that's better for you than mob justice, where like a town goes to get like, this guy stole my shit. He stole my shit yesterday, and maybe you did steal their shit. Maybe you did steal their shit, or maybe you did. Maybe it's a rumor and it's a lie. Either way, they're gonna decide to beat you to death because it's gonna just be emotionality and attacks and revenge, right? You prefer the justice system where even if you're a thief, you know you're gonna go before a judge. You're gonna have a lawyer defend you and say like he had a bad childhood, it's his first offense, and then the other dude's gonna be like, no, and then the judge will give you a sentence that's better for you, right? Even this is the thing, even for antisocial people or criminals from poverty, you're better off with the current system getting arrested by a cop, going before a judge, doing time or not doing time, because the alternative to that is being murdered. Like literally people just getting together like, this guy stole my shit. He stole my shit yesterday, and then they just like beat you in a field and throw you away. Because that's what happened in Chaz. Remember Chaz when a bunch of leftists are like making an autonomous zone? They literally killed somebody in rumors. Like nobody talks about that, but they did their community policing and they just murdered some kid because they decided that he was like a no good veteran. So yeah, you don't want that. Like that's the thing. As suck ass as pigs are, and I ain't no cop fan, right? I make loads of ACAB jokes. I'm a fan of Dorner memes. Fuck every cop in this fucking not you. It's funny, right? And there are a lot of shit ass cops, don't get me wrong. But when you look at the options for how to handle this problem humanity has available to it, what we got now is the best and needs to be improved, not thrown away and going back to like a town just like stands around with guns. Like, like the strongest dudes in the town all have guns and walk back and forth. And they're not really gathering evidence, and there's no judge and there's no laws. But like they kind of start rumors like that dude fucking touched my girl. And then the other one said, yeah, yeah, I saw him looking at my girl. And then next thing you know, that dude, they cut his head off and cut his balls off. And they decided to just like completely cyclical motion get revenge on him. And it could have been a rumor, right? Or maybe you did steal, maybe you is a thief, maybe you are picking up people's shit. But in like a country with rule of law, like you're gonna get arrested and they're gonna gather evidence and you'll have a lawyer assigned to you, or you can buy your own, and the state will have their side and they'll evaluate what you've done, what your charges are, and what your sentence is. That's way better for you, right? And obviously, there's miscarriages of justice. There's people who get falsely incarcerated. There's all kinds of shit. But when it comes to the issue of the intersection between the carceral system and racism, the biggest driver of all is class inequality along racial lines. I keep saying this. Racism exists to create an economic underclass for the oppressor races to use and exploit. That's why we invented the class called illegal immigrants, and invariably they're brown people who speak Hispanic language, and nobody cares. They're getting fucked over. People join in. They say, "Yeah, you're illegal. You didn't come here like my ancestors." And then you ask this motherfucker, "How do you think your ancestors got here, dumb shit?" I looked up how my Italian ancestors got here. You know what they did? They wrote on a log that said, I know Concetta back in Italy, and my brother lives in New York, and they were American now. And they didn't speak English and they didn't have an education. They were just like Mexican immigrants today. But the difference is this: when my ancestors came here from Italy in 1900, there was no motive for the factory owners and capitalists to call them illegal because there was no progressive labor regulations. So when my great grandmother and great grandfather were working in factories and getting really sick from occupational hazards and getting paid like shit and having like crazy long work hours and losing hands in machines, there was nothing to stop that. So there was no motive to invent a class called illegal immigrant, right? When these people got sick of this bullshit and started striking, forming unions, which, by the way, they tried to bust through racism, they'd be like, you can't work with these dirty Italians, you can't work with these Polacks. And then they get black people from the South to break the strike lines. And they say the black people are your enemy. And it worked. And the unions that succeeded educated the workers. Don't fall for this social division shit. We're all workers together. We need to work together against these pigs, right? So, yeah, eventually that worked, and the stock market crash happened, and they were terrified America would go commie. So they were helping the fascists in Germany, because they were terrified Germany would go commie, and they were terrified we would go commie, so they gave us FDR, and then we started seeding the American middle class then when FDR got elected and had the New Deal. Do you remember the New Deal from history? Come on. And that's when they got to work after the World War II, and now we just got to worry with the communist world. We saved Germany from fascism by uplifting, communists by uplifting a fascist, and we had to stomp them and steal all their engineers. They were especially wanted that. All the Nazi scientists went to go work for NASA, and now they just have to handle the commies, right? So we had the Cold War. And this involved like manipulation and control of territories and an arms race. And containment of the spread of communism, right? And when that shift happened in society, they got to work to gradually destroying the progressive movement because they only let it get kicked off because the communist world was a threat. And as they worked on weakening the communist world, it was then written on the wall, your progressive movement is next. And we're at that stage. We're at going back to the golden age where there ain't no communist world. There's just a bunch of weird fucking dictators who like to rape babies. And they successfully destroyed the communist world. China has modernized into a kind of a socialist economy. Russia's some weird dictatorship where they control the people in ethno nationalist Orthodox Christianity, like they do here, and sexism and hate of gays and stuff. While Putin just like steals everything from them and their little KGB oil mafia. And there's no leftism, right, in the world. So they, ever since the 90s, especially when the USSR fell, they've been really working on destroying the since the 80s and 90s especially. And we're at this stage now, like where dumb fucks who are third and fourth generation 1900s immigrants don't even know their own fucking history. And they're like, "Gay, you're Mexican, you're illegal." And it's like, you look at them like, when you call him illegal, I hope you know you're throwing out your weekend, your pension. Oh, you don't got a pension no more. Sorry, my bad. Your health care, your benefits, your sick days. Because the thing that makes him illegal is the thing that you have that they don't want him to have. Get it? But they don't get it because they're ignorant. They're morons, right? And oh my God, my sister got some MAGAs in her family. She married into a Bayonne family. And I remember hearing them at a baby party talking. They were like, "I don't mind immigrants, but did you come here legally?" I'm just like, I want to turn to her and be like, "Did you ever look at how your Irish relatives came here? Because I looked at how my relatives came here. And they invented this rigmarole bullshit to make it hard to get citizenship so they could call them illegal. And when you support the capitalists in persecuting the class of brown immigrant called illegal, you are helping them take away your progressive labor regulations too. I know you don't see how that's connected, but it is because by justifying that they're illegal, and they made this class just to create an economic underclass of ethnically and culturally divergent people that you can agree are illegal. When in reality, what it's really about, the real reason they made this class up is to deprive them of progressive labor regulations. You're helping them also take yours because that's the end game for them, getting rid of all progressive movement and labor, right? So if you want to join the capital fat pig man and calling these people illegal when you damn well know the shit was only made up so that they couldn't enjoy the labor that your ancestors fought for, you're kind of helping give it away for yourself too, you stupid motherfucker. But yeah, so I went on a tangent here. Like I was saying, there's a nugget of truth in the carceral system affecting communities like Black people more. But the drive, they instead of having leftists accurately identify this is because racism is a subtype of classism, and the point of systematic racism is to create a permanent economic underclass that can be exploited by oppressor races. This then drives disparate crime rates that make their community more affected by the prison system, right? Rather than that being the message, you solve this by fixing class inequality along racial lines, they made the message no cops at all. And it's like, and the message is so repulsive to regular people, right? Because for regular people, they're going to think like these crazy nuts want criminals, right? That's what they're going to think and hear, and they're not hearing your logic. Like you see, the prison system and policing is oppressing Black people. They're more likely to have these encounters. They're more likely to be involved in such crimes, property crimes, and things. And they're not hearing that. They're just hearing like you just want criminals, right? And it also is destructive. It not only is the message bad, and so it creates entropy of leftist progressivism, but it's also not the right way to approach this. Your message, your focus should be on class economic equality and addressing racism that way. That's how you really fix it. Because I assure you, middle class Black Americans don't want no cops. Middle class Black Americans who are not afflicted by poverty don't like that message either. Nobody does, right? I mean, it's like it takes the truth, but then it comes up with a solution that is so CIA'd that when they say it, people are going to think they're insane. And it's also not the right way to look at the problem. It gets them to stop focusing on class and the intimate relationship of race and class. And it starts makes them chant a cry that sounds like they're fighting for criminals is what they're going to then tell the population on their other arms, right? It's a lot like how the CIA and Mossad got the Palestine protesters to chant from the river to the sea. This became a viral chant despite the fact it sounds like garbage, right? I don't give a fuck. It sounds from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea. Do you know what that sounds like to people's ears? It sounds like you're saying you're going to pick the Jews up and dump them in the ocean, in the river, and in the sea, right? And I remember watching this speech at a college. I can't remember this fucking dude's name, but he's like a long Israel critic. He's some Jewish guy whose parents were Holocaust survivors. Um, and he's like, he knew what was up. This is CIA shit. This is Mossad shit. So he was like, your heart's in the right place. Some of your slogans, like Free Palestine, are very good, and it's because you guys thought of it. But you have to be aware. I've been in this for decades. Some of the shit you're saying and some of the people you're colluding with are not really your friends, are not really your allies, and they're going to guide you in ways that are anti-progressive movement. And as soon as this dude stopped talking, some dumb nitwit stood up and goes from the river to the sea, and then they all cheer. It's like this is the religious like stupidity of people right here. Like they've invested their identity in a slogan. Like they've turned a slogan into a religious hymn. Like you know how religious people their hymns become who they are. Like oh Father, thou in heaven, mercy be thy name. And they merge their identity. That's what a lot of religious brained political cult type people will do with slogans, and the slogans come from the CIA, right? So when you try to point out like, you know, that thing you've been saying don't sound so good. In fact, I don't even think you thought it up. I think the CIA, one of your infiltrated people, told you to say this. They just fight you. They want to punch you in the teeth because it's like their whole identity is now merged with this religious symbolism because they're not thinking in a logical, I want to get things done in society way anymore, but identity, spirituality, and faith way. And that's why they fight so hard when you point out certain positions and policies and approaches are not the best way to get your goals done. They will literally want to punch you and kill you, right? And so that's what happened after he got off the stage. Rather than them think, because they're no longer, they're a faith, it's like a spiritual thing, a group religious thing. And he just insulted them, is what happened, right? So they got real angry and just started screaming it louder. And that's kind of what happens when you try to educate leftists online. Like a lot of things you say and think were created by the CIA, bro. Like you got this information online somewhere along your life and you don't realize how many agents they have out there to make your shit fucked up, right? To conceptualize the problem not only in the wrong way, in a way that benefits the capital oppressor, but also makes your movement entropic and look unappealing to other people. Right. And then when you try to say this, they call you an enemy, an oppressor, you're a saboteur. They will violently resist you, right? But yeah, like I said for the outset of this video, it's amazing to see how successful the CIA is at controlling minds. I just see it, signs of it all over because there's no way shit like this could organically. There's no way organically leftists and progressives stopped focusing on class and started taking up positions like there should be no cops. That's how you fix race. There's no fucking way that organically happened. It's clearly the CIA, right? But no one has insight into it, and they just keep parroting the line in group religious fervor. And if you try to introduce logic and sense, they will fight you. Just like that dude got up on stage and it's like, I've been in this movement since the 70s. Trust me when I say the gray man is doing shit, right? And they're getting you to do shit that's self destructive. And they just literally, like, old man, get out of here. It's like screaming the CIA phrase louder. So, yeah, it's being me, you just look around like, I can't believe these people can't see this. Like everything they're being trained to think, everything they're being trained to see, everything they're being trained to do is to destroy their movement. And they don't see it. And if you try to show them, they'll punch you in the face.